What is going on in the guitar industry right now? Let's dig in. So before we start, I just want to address the fact that I haven't done any guitar related content in a while. A big part of this channel was for me to kind of give you guys a glimpse into my life as both a producer and a musician, and I've kind of been doing a lot of stuff on the production side. So this is my first video back into doing some music, and I'm going to vary it up a little bit. And do you know what? I've got 226 subscribers and I've had something in the region of 7,000 views in the last month. So tell me below if there's anything you want to see about my music career, and I will do my best to make it for you. And also, while you're down there, give me a like, a subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the guitar industry right now, and I guess the first thing is like, what qualifies me to make any comment about it? Well, I've been a professional musician for 20 years, and playing my guitar for money is a big part of how I put food on the table. I've done so much guitar related stuff in the last 20 years. I used to run open mic nights, I've been in covers bands, wedding bands, and currently I'm a touring musician with my band The Dogs D'Amour. In that time, I also spent 7 years working in a guitar store as well, so I've had loads of experiences with guitars, I've sold loads, and I've played thousands of them. So I've definitely got lots of experiences to share with you as a musician, and I've been really bothered about some of the stuff that's going on in the industry right now. So what are the big controversies that have been going on? Well, obviously there's a big Fender debacle that's going on right now. There's been stuff with Gibson. There's been loads of companies like G&L going out of business. There's been AI content issues. There's been YouTube creators stealing music from other creators. Loads and loads of stuff. And if I'm honest, there's definitely better YouTubers out there that can go into the finer details with it. But I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know a little bit about it. So the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about was Fender. And I know it's pretty fashionable to kind of bash Fender at the moment, but I just wanted to kind of weigh in with a few things. The main thing is that I've had a problem with Fender for years, and that comes from my time working in a guitar store. One of the things I will say is I love Fender guitars. I'm a huge fan of Strats and I'm a huge fan of Tellies, and some of the stuff that Fender does is super cool. So why on earth have I got a problem with them? Well, as I said, when I worked in the guitar store all those years ago, I definitely had a big issue with Fender. And that was all to do with their quality control and their lack of consistency. I can remember playing an American Strat, which is an expensive guitar, and thinking it was utter shite, then playing the inexpensive Mexicans and thinking, wow, this is like one of the best guitars I've ever played. That made no sense to me. Also, some of the Squier stuff was absolutely kicking Fender's ass. The classic vibe, particularly the Simon Neil Strat, that thing was unbelievably good and for not a lot of money. So even back then I had a problem, and again, like I said, it was all to do with the fact that there were such inconsistencies in quality across all the ranges. And there's another thing that's going on. The range that they offer right now is absolutely enormous, and I find it really quite confusing. And I know I'm an old man now, but like, Jesus Christ, this is mental. They have something in the region of 13 or 14 core ranges across the Mexican and the USA factories. And we've also got a plethora of special editions, custom shops, master builds. It's just enormous. And I guarantee that there are still issues with consistency and quality control across all of those ranges. In fact, I hear about it all the time. So with everything that's going on with Fender, I think they really need to look at that. Now, I'm a big fan of Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. Do you remember that program where he goes into failing restaurants and tries to sort them out? I'm going to liken this to Fender in a kind of weird way. One of the big things that he does when he goes into a restaurant is he looks at the menu, he always shrinks it down so that it's good quality and consistent. And you know what? I think Fender need to do the exact same thing. Stop having a ridiculous range that vary in quality and just get back to making great guitars. When I worked in the guitar store all those years ago, you had basically the Mexican standard and the American standard, and maybe a couple of special ones like an Ultra or something like that. But now, honestly, like, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't know what it is I'm buying, and quite frankly, some of the prices are ridiculous. And in fact, some of this custom shop and master built stuff is unbelievably expensive. I'm a big fan of the channel The Studio Rats. I love Paul's playing, and he was playing a custom shop that cost him something like 12 grand. What the actual fuck? My car isn't even worth 12 grand. So yeah, everybody's up in arms about Fender at the moment because of them threatening to sue other builders. And do you know what? You're right to be pissed off. That is a shit manoeuvre from a company that are clearly just struggling to do well. And they're lashing out at other companies for some ridiculous reason. And it's super fashionable right now to bash Fender. One of the things that's kind of pissing me off right now is what about the other brands that Fender have? Nobody's boycotting Gretsch or Jackson or Charvel or EVH. So I think if you're going to take this kind of moral high horse on a company, you've got to remember that they have more than just Fender. Vote with your wallets. If you don't want them to act like this, don't buy their shit. And that includes Gretsch, Jackson, Charvel and EVH. And by the way, I think these brands are really fucking cool as well. Like, I really fancy a Charvel. I think at the end of the day, what this all comes down to is that Fender need to be better across the board. And rather than kind of threatening the ridiculous amounts of alternatives that are out there, just make better fucking guitars. Simple as that. And while you're at it, make sure that they're consistently good across all of the ranges. And actually, just you know what, just fucking sack off the ridiculous amount of ranges you've got as well. Now, Fender are not the only brand in that league that are causing problems. There's been a lot of issues with Gibson lately. Now, I am a huge Gibson fan, okay? The Les Paul is my ultimate favourite guitar. I have one that I've had for 20 years and I fucking love it. I'm a big fan of guitar players that use Les Pauls, particularly Slash. Jerry Cantrell is another one. I mean, the list goes on. Joe Perry, Jimmy Page, tons of really aspirational guitarists that I grew up with idolising use the Gibson Les Paul, and I've been using one since I was 15 and I'm 47 now, and I absolutely adore them. I just think they are the best guitars in the world, but fuck me, they have become so expensive. And again, there's always been issues with quality control. So my main Gibson Les Paul, in fact my only Gibson Les Paul, is a 2004 Gibson Les Paul Classic. And how I picked that particular guitar is I went to every guitar store in Edinburgh where I live and tried every Les Paul, and I settled on that one. Interestingly, it wasn't even the most expensive one that was in the city. It was just the one that I really connected with, and I still love it to this day. It plays and sounds like no other guitar I've ever owned. And funny story, I've been offered a lot of money for that guitar, way more than it's worth, from other Gibson Les Paul players that think it's amazing too. My big issue with Gibson right now is they've become a lifestyle brand, and it's a lifestyle that I can't support even as a professional musician. Everything has become super expensive and actually well out of reach. My current Les Paul is taking a real bashing on the road. As much as I love playing it, I am super attached to it and I'd really like to get another one, but that is becoming really difficult because the prices of them new are unbelievably high. Now, I really fancy a Les Paul Custom. There's just something about that guitar that is really speaking to me right now, and I think it would work so well with the band that I'm in. But that guitar is nearly £5,000 new in the UK, and that is just not achievable for me. So for the first time ever in my adult life as a Gibson player, I'm finding myself thinking about other brands. And honestly, I can't tell you how big a thing this is. Like, I honestly would never have expected myself to walk on with a Les Paul that didn't have Gibson on the headstock. And that kind of brings up another conversation. I mean, some of the cheaper brands are getting really good. Obviously, we know things like Harley Benton and Epiphone and, you know, loads of other stuff like that. Sire by Larry Carlton. They're making really great affordable instruments. The thing is, I'm a professional musician. I am not afraid to invest in my art. So I don't mind spending a bit of money on a guitar. So I've been looking at some really interesting alternatives. And honestly, for the first time, I'm thinking, do you know what? I might jump ship. And this isn't me trying to say I'm anything like, you know, Slash leaving Marshall or me leaving Gibson. All I'm saying is that I've been loyal to that brand for a long time, and this is the first time that I've ever thought that I would try something else. So what am I looking at? Well, Eastman Guitars. So they're a custom shop based out of China, and their Les Pauls not only look amazing, but Christ, the specs, they're unbelievable. And the price of them is honestly so reasonable for a guitar of that caliber. The other one that I'm looking at is a Japanese brand called FGN or Fujien, and again similar sort of thing. Really, really great guitars, amazing specs, the reviews are fantastic and they look amazing too. And another brand I'm thinking about is Maybach, and they're made in Europe, and again specs look super cool, vintage correct, and well priced. Now, those guitars that I've just mentioned, they're not cheap guitars by any stretch, but they seem to hold a lot more sort of value for money for me than Gibson do right now. I would love to go out and buy a Murphy-aged R9, but I haven't got tens of thousands of pounds to spend on an instrument that I'm basically going to take on tour and beat the shit out of. So I want to try these alternatives out and see if they're worth it. But that brings up another problem, the death of the high street. So I live in Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland, which is a part of the UK, and we have one viable guitar store in Edinburgh. It's a great guitar store. It's not the only guitar store, but the only other guitar stores are tiny little independents that don't have much of a range at all. The Guitar in Edinburgh is absolutely fantastic. It's got loads of guitars, but guess what? They are dominated by Fender, Gretsch, Jackson, Charvel and Gibson. Honestly, I reckon about 60 or 70% of what's on the shop floor are those brands. And there are certainly none of the brands that I mentioned earlier on out there for me to try out. So if I want to buy an Eastman, which is about £1,500–1,600, I have to basically order that online without trying it out. So I'm going to take a £1,500 gamble to see if I like that guitar. And if I don't like it, then I have to sell it and then I lose money. How is that fair? So many high street retailers have gone out of business. I used to work for Sound Control, it went out of business. That became Red Dog, it's went out of business. And so many others have gone out too. Now, I could travel to the nearest big city, which is a couple of hours away. It's Glasgow, and there's another guitar and a few more independents. But again, that all adds cost and inconvenience. I just want to go in and try some guitars out and find one that I fall in love with. It doesn't cost me a fortune. Now, when I was in Guitar, I did try out the Epiphone inspired by Gibson Custom Shop. I tried two of those guitars out. One of them I really liked, and the other one I was like, But again, that was the importance. The one that was like, was in fact the Les Paul Custom, the one that I want the most. I think if I bought that online and spent the £1,100–1,200 it cost to find I didn't like it, I would be pretty pissed off. So really, where does this leave me? So in conclusion, we have to think about the fact that the music industry is in a bit of trouble right now. Venues are closing left, right and centre in the UK. Big massive shows from big bands are being cancelled because people can't afford the ticket price. And even bread and butter work for working musicians like weddings, they're in massive decline as well. I used to be in a wedding band, I had to stop it because there was such little work out there. Brides can't afford a wedding band, so they're using things like Spotify, and don't even start me on that shower of arseholes. So whilst the opportunities for working musicians are in decline, the cost is going up for quality instruments. And we've got two parts of that, which is really interesting as well. The tools that we use as professional musicians, they're either getting really expensive, or the cheaper stuff is actually getting way better too. So where does that leave us? In a kind of state of flux. It is super interesting that cheaper Chinese brands are getting so much better in quality, whereas some of these bread and butter brands like Fender and Gibson, which have been tools of our trade for generations, are getting way more expensive and also just not that good quality. The high-end tools of our trade are becoming toys for boomers rather than what they're supposed to be. It's like someone buying a sports car and only taking it out on a Sunday. A car is supposed to be driven and enjoyed, but instead some rich person is going to chuck it in a garage and take it out on a sunny day only. Or they're going to buy this stuff as an investment, keep it cased, it will never see the light of day, because the only thing they're interested in is the value of that going up so they can sell it at a later date. That's not what instruments are for. They're supposed to be played. They're supposed to be enjoyed not only by the person playing them, but by the people watching these gigs. And what happens when these rich boomers die out? Where are these brands going to be? They need to start thinking about the average person, the working musicians, folk like me, folk like you, who want good quality tools to do a job and not have to absolutely skin themselves. My Les Paul is worth more than my car. How the fuck is that a thing? So what can you do? Well, it's really, really simple. Vote with your wallets, okay? We need to stop giving Fender and Gibson the time of day. We need to look at alternatives to invest the money into our tools with. Now, I'm not decrying the high-end guitar market, okay? We've had brands like Sewer and PRS and Ernie Ball, but we have known that they have been expensive and super good for a long time, so there is no change there. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have brands that are super expensive and super high quality. It's just there needs to be value for money with it, and I'm not really sure that Fender or Gibson are doing that for us right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little rant. Remember, like, subscribe, and if there's stuff that you want to see, let me know and I'll do my best. See you next week.